Hey everybody, welcome back to Battle Ready Inc., the channel all about bringing you as much nerdy content as possible. Today for you, we're back in Dragon Village M, and I thought it was time that I finally got around to updating my rune guide for you guys. The last one I put out has been like a year and a half ago now, and I wouldn't say it's outdated on information, it's just outdated on quality of video. So I just want to bring you guys an updated version that's condensed down, less filler, more straight to the point. Alright, let's get into this. As always, if you're new to the channel, please like the video and subscribe. If you like Dragon Village M, then this is the channel for you. I put out guides, tips and tricks, review videos for dragons that come out, new dragons, as well as old dragons when we're kind of in a lull on when new dragons come out. I like to cover old ones as well. And just, like I said, just guides for the game in general. All kinds of different content in the game. I try to put out as many guides as I can for you guys to help you along. If you really enjoy my videos and want to support me so that way I can keep making videos for you guys, consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll have a link in the description below for that, so definitely check that out. If you want to support me, you can get access to my Discord server as one of the most popular ones there. One-time fee, $5, and you're a Discord member for life. You can message me on there if you ever need any help or anything like that. I've always got my phone on me, so it's not a big deal for me to reply pretty quickly to you guys. Alright, as well as if you want to become, if you really want to support me, I have shirts up now. I have a link in the description below for those. I've got a black one with white writing, as well as a white one with black writing on it. So definitely check those out. They're pretty cool. I try to be as affordable as possible for you guys, just so that way you can get the brand out, help me, and then, I can help you all by making more videos. But enough about that. Let's get into this video. Let's look at these runes, okay? So, where to begin? Oh my goodness. Runes is one of the more complicated parts of this game. There's some aspects of it I don't really use like I should, maybe. It's just kind of what you feel is best sometimes. Sometimes there is what's best and you should go with what's best, but not always. So let's get just the breakdown here of the basics, right? So click on your dragon, and right here you'll see the runes that they have on them. You can also click the rune button over here, and then you can see what all they have equipped, as well as you have your inventory down here. So you can click the different ones, and different ones, like the diamond. The diamond will always be in the three slot right here, right? And so on and so forth. So you'll always have these ones that match up correspondingly. So I can't take this one here and put it down here at the end, right? Makes sense. So going on beyond that, so this first slot here will always be attack, just basic attack increase on stats. This third slot will always be defense, and this last slot will always be HP as this very first stat here. You look at all these different ones I've got, all of them are all HP. Alright? Keeping up with me, right? Okay. So these next ones, the 2, the 4, and the 6, all your even numbers will always be a percentage rune, okay? And percentage ones are arguably the most important ones. When people are talking about runes, and they spout off like attack percent, crit rate, and attack, they mean this first slot will have attack percentage. This slot right here, the middle one, the 4th slot, that'll be your crit rate one, right? And then when they spout off the third attack stat, they're always talking about the 6th slot down here, which will be another attack percentage, okay? Now, the thing about these that's unique compared to the odd numbers is that this first stat can change. So look over here. So I've got a defense percentage rune, right? And there's an attack speed percentage. And also I want to point out, just unique to the second slot, this is the only slot out of all 6 of them that you can get an attack percentage rune. Okay, so if you ever have like an attack dragon or a healer dragon where they do more damage or they get bigger heals, if they off of attack speed corresponding to their attack speed, this is the only stat that you can put an attack speed rune in. So make sure you put an attack speed rune in this slot if you have a dragon that scales off of attack speed. What I mean by scaling is their damage gets bigger or their heals get stronger if you have really high attack speed. So make sure you put one there. Alright, so there's this, if you never need any help on what slots can have what, there's this eye right here, which is for information, basically. You click that, it gives all this different stuff, kind of what I'm going to explain to you guys, but I'm going to try to break it down and make it a little bit better. This second slot, though, this is kind of the more important one for newer players. So the second slot that we were just talking about, all the different percentages are right here. Attack, defense, HP, and attack speed are all the ones that you can get in this one. So then you got your regular defense, right? Just no percentage, just flat defense. The fourth slot here, your the hexagon. So you're going to be able to get attack percentage, defense percentage, HP percentage, crit rate, and crit damage percentages. This is the only slot that you can get these two in, okay? So very, very important. So for your attack dragons, you're usually going to either have critical damage or critical rate. If you're a beginner player, I highly recommend critical rate. Just because you're not going to be able to get the substats, the leaderships, the tamer skills to give you extra crit rate in other areas. So you'll probably want to go with crit rate first. For you late game guys, mid to late game, once you get your dragons with a leadership skill that has a crit rate buff for the whole team, things like that, and you have Kathos as your tamer with like 20% crit rate, then you can probably switch over and just run critical damage because you'll have a decent passive critical rate without having to dedicate an entire rune to it. That fifth slot, HP, just like we talked. And again, the same core stats here, attack, defense, and HP. Of course, you can get on the sixth slot here. But then this is the one where effect accuracy and effect resistance. This is the only slot you can get those in. Definitely a lot more rare. You don't see effect accuracy all that much used. Very key situational dragons use it. But in general, for new players, which is what this guide is focused for, don't worry about those right now. Just worry about your attack, defense, and HP. If you have an attack dragon, put attack percentage. If it's a support type or a tank or a healer, as long as it's not a healer that scales off of attack, you're going to want to put defense or HP. I personally recommend defense percentage because if you have a whole lot of HP, you're going to use your heal skill and your health bar is barely going to move, right? And so they're just going to take it right back down a lot easier. If you focus more on defense, you get more out of your heals in correspondence. All right? So you see the big stats here. This is your main stat. And then you're going to have these little sub-stats here. So, which just give further boosts. Just like they kind of say here. What they point out, this is what they provide. You can look at different stuff. Critical rate right here. So I've got that nice big 7%. They cap out at 10%. So a 7% is really nice. So having that right there just further makes it, if I got this 7% on all of these runes, right? So this one's got a 6%. This one's got a measly little 1% on it. But if I got a lot of those crit rates in these substats, then that makes getting rid of this rune for a critical damage rune so much easier, okay? As well as sometimes you'll have these special runes here. So it's not only just a counterattack rune, right? It's because that's what this gold yellowish rune does. That's its special thing. Is it also has a bonus stat here, which is cool. I can take this rune up to 12. Plus 12 right here, which is kind of like levels, and it'll give me another stat down here. So for every 3 levels up to 12, so 3, 6, 9, and 12, you get a bonus substat. So let's find here's a rune that I haven't leveled. Let's go to a gray one. There we go. Okay. You see how it's only got this one substat? Well, if I take it up to level 3, this will get a boost. If I take it up to 6, I'll get a new stat. And then if I go 9, I'll get another stat. And then 12, another one. See what I mean? But some runes, they get a bonus 5th one. But this one is untouchable. You cannot make this one stronger. What it is what it is, okay? So it's just kind of stuck there. But it's nice to have a bonus stat. They're a lot more rare. You don't always focus on these very much, but just wanted to point it out. The stars down here, that just means how powerful they are. So at plus 15, I cap out at 46%. I think I had one earlier here. Right, okay. Well, that's not a best example, but let's enhance this one right quick. That's how you enhance it, by the way. So you come over here, and I just do this so it doesn't automatically. It keeps trying and trying and trying. That was great because it succeeded on the first try or the second try. Sometimes that takes a while, and it takes up a lot of gold to enhance these runes. But when you do, so see how this is a 5-star rune and this is a 6-star? They're both plus 15, but see how this one caps out at 440 and this one's 492? The higher your stars, then the higher your stat bonuses become. Also, if you look at these substats here, I'm plus 15, he's plus 15. Look, 8, 7, 6. You know, there's a 3 in there too. But on all these percentages, look, 3%, 4%, 1%, tiny numbers. And that's just, actually that's a bad example because usually it's reversed. Super bad example on that one. Sorry, guys. Also kind of cheated because this one's been re-rolled. And what I mean by that is where this one's HP. Let's do this one. So click Enhance. Then down here is Enchant. So once it's plus 15, what we can do is come in here, select one of these. Once you select it, that's it. You can never come in here and select any of these other ones. You can only ever change this. And what I mean by change it, see I've got these enchant stones. I can try, and boom, I just changed it. Just changed it again. So what am I trying to get here? Critical rate, of course. Always trying to get that critical rate. Probably anything above 5% critical rate, and I would keep it. Running out of attempts here, though. 8% attack. Remember I said 10% is the cap? Awesome. Let's keep this one. I know it's not critical rate. I've only got 2 more runes here, and we haven't got it yet. And this is a really high number, and it's an attack, and our dragon scales off of attack. So we got rid of our HP percentage, but it's an attack dragon. It's important that we have attack on this guy. So that's how you re-rolled it, and you can see these little swirly signs. That means I've re-rolled them, whereas these don't, because I don't ever want to get rid of these these runes. Which is another reason I've got this. See how this is a 5-star rune and all my others are 6-star? Like, what are you doing, man? Well, it's a defense rune, so I'm not too worried about losing out on this one. Like, sure, I'm going to get an extra, 52% or 52 just raw stat. That doesn't mean a whole lot on this dragon. However, look at these substats here. 7% crit rate. Heck yeah. 6% critical damage. Yes. Attack percentage. I mean, 3 of the main stats for attack dragons, and I've got them all here on this rune. Yeah, it's only a 5-star, but these substats are so much more important than this defense on my attack dragon. Alright, now kind of getting to the meat and potatoes of this. What all these colors mean, right? So let's just get in here and let's look at all the different rune types. So again, I went to that eye there, the information, and let's go to rune types here, and this is a big old list of all the runes in the game, all the different types you can get. As well as we can go over here and see where we can unlock them all. So we covered the red ones, the might ones. They give our attack percentage, solidarity. These are our defense ones. HP here. Pretty obvious stuff. Swiftness for attack speed. Chance is for critical rate. You see a lot of people just say chance versus damage. When they say damage, I know it's a little bit confusing, but it's critical damage. All right. ACC, this is your effect accuracy. So some of your dragons, when you read their skills, it says, 80% chance to inflict silence on an enemy. And silence makes it so they can't use any of their skills at all. They just basic attack, auto basic attack. That's all they can do when they're silenced. So 80% chance, well, let's throw this effect accuracy on there to make it 100, okay? You're going to ask, well, why would I need to go, maybe above that? Well, what if they're running resistance runes? Also, their dragons have a built-in resistance, a basic amount that they already get. For and also substats. They could just have a lot of substats that have effect resistance. So you say you've got that 80%, and you don't want to run any effect accuracy runes on there. I don't personally. I don't use them hardly at all, except for on very few dragons. I've got my 80% chance. Let's say they've got 40% resistance on. My 80% just dropped to 40% of how often I'm going to get that bonus on them. So something you just got to kind of think about. I don't really use these runes specifically, but I do like the substats on certain dragons. Like effect resistance on a tank is a pretty good idea. So in your substats, you got your defense or your HP and your main one. Effect resistance in your substats is not a bad option to have. All right, so let's jump over here. These are the super specialty, very crazy what they do. These are just raw stat increases, but these guys over here, these are a little bit different. So we got HP absorption, which is recover HP equal to 10% of damage inflicted on enemies. So very interesting, and it does. So you only need 2 of them to get the bonus. You could run 4 of them or 6 of them. I couldn't imagine running 6 of them because then you lose out on all your buffs over here. But say I run 4 mites over here and then run 2 of these. That kind of cuts out my need for a healer. Say my whole team had HP absorption runes on them. It just even less so. Why? I don't need a healer at that point. We're just doing enough damage that I get to save myself a whole slot by not having one. Now it doesn't exactly work out that well, but just kind of a idea for you. Meditation runes, which we talked about earlier, very, 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 very important runes for PvP. You gotta have a support type with meditation runes on it, okay? Counterattack, so these last ones here, I personally have never used. Well, I used to use survival. I won't get to survival, but a couple of these I've never really used. Counterattack, when damage immediately strikes back, there's a 1-second cooldown. So if you have 1 dragon up front and you got 5 dragons attacking it at once, you're not going to be able to attack all 5 of them back, okay? You have a 1-second cooldown, and damage is proportional to your defense. So you're going to want to put these on a tank, okay? A tank that scales off of defense might do pretty well with this, or your Light Lady that I have there that scales off of her heals, scale off of defense. Might not be a bad idea to have a counterattack rune on her if she's up front. Survival, let's skip that one for right now. Let's go to determination. 20% chance to take damage in place of allies behind you. So your tanks that are up front, say they use a big old blast AoE skill that hits you and all your other allies. Well, you reduce that off of them and then you take it yourself. I'm not a fan of this. I know some players that are. They do like this skill. Maybe they're a little bit better than I am. A little more advanced. I'm not exactly sure. I disagree with it myself personally, though. So, just FYI. Next is going to be that Grudge rune down there. 20% chance to decrease drag skill cooldown by 1 second. When damaged, activation rate is increased when set effect is stacked. So you could run multiple sets of Grudge runes to decrease this. However, I don't see the benefit of 1 second. You're giving up a whole 2 set of runes. So I'm giving up 20% crit damage, 12% crit rate, all these numbers over here for 1 second decreased. 20% chance. So I have to get attacked basically 5 times before I trigger this skill. I I've never been a fan of it. I haven't really seen it used ever in the time I've been playing this game, so I just think there's better options, right? It sounds cool on paper, but when you're comparing it, oh, but I've got to give up, a fifth of my damage to get this tiny chance of getting 1 second off of my my cooldowns. And the people getting attacked most are your tanks. Your tanks aren't using their drag skills that much. Your tank skills are just, your tanks are just sitting there. You're not using their skills that much. If you have an abundance of mana, sure, pop one off every now and then, but usually their skills go off a cooldown so fast anyways, because you're not using them. It's not that important. Alright, survival here. Become invulnerable for 5 seconds when HP reaches below 30%. So say your opponent uses a big AoE skill, almost kills your whole team, or does kill and one-shots you, full health, takes you to 0. This dragon stops that. At 30%, you just stop taking damage and become invulnerable. You just don't take any more damage for 5 seconds because of this rune. Pretty cool stuff here. Survival runes used to be all over the place. Lots and lots of dragons. If they were an attacker or a healer that scaled off of attack, they were running survival runes. Guaranteed it. However, a dragon came out called Trophius, who had a survival rune skill built in. Whatever dragon on your team, if they ever fall, I think it's like 20% or 25%, if they ever hit that mark, they became invulnerable for, I think it's a lower amount. However, his cooldown skill is every 5 seconds. So it's like, oh, they stopped. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, there's usually, you're not going to run across teams that are going to be able to use another drag skill that fast and hit you a second time before his skill is off cooldown. So he made this null and void a lot less important just because of his skill. He kind of does the same thing, but that's what all these different runes do. So this is kind of where a lot of people argue on what the best way to go about things is, and that's what runes you should put, what type of runes you should put on what dragons, right? So this guy right here, he is an attack type. Varus is an attack type. So we want to definitely put on runes that increase our attack, increase our damage, that sort of thing. But it's important to look at their drag skill. What their drag skill is kind of sets up what runes you should put on them. So this guy, this attack receives a 30% bonus of your attack. So also, when defeating enemies with this skill, allies recover HP proportional to your attack. So what type of runes should we put on this guy? We definitely want to put on attack percentage for sure. He's a damage dealer. He's an attacker. It makes sense to have attack type. As well as these red runes here. They're called might runes. When you put 4 of them on, see this set here? You get an extra 35%. So that's why I've got 4 of these. See how they're kind of glowing? They like glowing on and off red. That means my set is complete. But I don't need to run 6 of them because I'm only going to get the benefit if I'm running 4. So doing 6 does not help you at all. Okay, you're wasting 2 slots. So then we need to look for runes that get a set when there's only 2 of them. So see, this one here is damage 2 set. So I only need 2 of these pink ones to get this critical damage plus 20%. And that's what the pink ones here do, is when you get 2 of those, you get a 20% increase. And the counter to that one is the purple ones here, which is your crit rate. However, you notice that crit rate is a lot smaller of a number than the 20%. So once you get to that point in the early game, you're going to want to probably use the purple ones as your second set, or what have you. I'll show you another option that you don't when you don't want to use the red ones, but you'll probably early on want to use the purple set. Okay. But let's look at a different example. So I've got this other attacker here called Arcana. He's a dark type. He's an attacker. Do you see I've got all these pink runes on him? Well, let's go look at why that is. So we're going to go look at my drag skill here. And power is greatly increased proportionally to your critical damage. So I want his critical damage stat. And you can look at your stats right here. Critical damage. I want that super, super high. Because he's going to do more damage the higher that number is. Alright. So remember how I said damage set? You only get the bonus for every 2 that you have. So if I run 2, 2, and 2, I get this damage set bonus 3 times. So I'm getting a plus 60% because I've got these extra ones here. Now if I run 4 of them, then yeah, I would get 2 of it. If I ran 3 pink ones though, I'd only get the set bonus once because I don't have it in pairs. It only works if you do it in pairs. I could also change one of them out, drop one of these guys, well, I guess 2 of them for 2 purples to give me an extra critical rate. However, what I do to mitigate this, so that way I don't have to run any purples at all, I only need to run the pink ones, the critical damage ones. This middle slot here, I put a critical rate in there to help balance it, because you only get that critical damage when you land a critical hit, right? So critical rate is how often every time you attack you get a critical hit, and critical hit is, you know, double damage. So you definitely want to get critical hits as often as possible. So what I like to do is come over here and look at my critical rate, 79%, so almost 80% right here off this guy. So, but I want it to be like at least 90%. At 90%, you're pretty much every time gonna get a critical hit. Pretty much. There are other aspects in the game, but I'm not gonna talk about that here. It's a little more advanced, but I'm pretty much gonna get a critical hit almost every single time. You know, maybe once every 5 battles, one of my attacks won't be a critical hit, but more often than ever not, they will. But I can make up for this other 21% with like tamer skills, right? So Kathos, like I was talking about earlier, that tamer, he gives his leadership ability is he gives a 15 to 20% critical rate buff to all my dragons. So boom, he's 20%, he's at 99% critical rate. That's gonna hit every time. I mean, mathematically, you're pretty much, what, 1 in 100 attacks. 1 in 100 attacks won't be a critical hit. Okay, I'll be alright. And then if you just further, you know, like I said before, put on a leadership dragon as well, like the clown dragon with the 24%, you know, then his critical rate would be 123% with all those things combined. So 123% crit rate, I think he's going to hit a critical hit every time. Just saying. Alright, but that's why I run all these pink runes on him. So let's steer away from the attack types. I think you've got it. The only other example I just want to give right quick would be the attack speed. Attack dragons, which they are rare. You don't see them very often. Pretty sure I've got one in here somewhere. There we go. So this guy here, he's an attack type, and if you look at his drag skill, we'll click his skills here, power is greatly increased proportional to your attack speed. Alright, so we'll come in here, look at his runes. See, I've got these blue ones on here. So swiftness, a 4 set, takes 4 blue ones here to give an attack speed of plus 35%. So it's a good buff, it's a good amount. As well as my second slot here is an attack speed percentage rune. It's the only slot I can put that on, so I've got to make sure I've got one there. As well as I've got a set of purple here to help give him an extra bit of crit rate, as well as this right here on the 4th slot, and that gives him a crit rate of 67%. Why don't I run the pink ones on this guy instead? Well, that's because these, if you look on these runes here that I've got, I'm on my substats here. I'm more worried about getting more attack speed. You don't see any crit rate here. You look here, you don't see any crit rate here, but you see attack percentage. You do see a little bit here, but no attack speed, so that's not really that great. And then here, a lot of crit rate. That's the only good rune I have on here that also has attack speed. So if you can get both crit rate and attack speed, you're definitely doing good. Let's see, what would be like the perfect rune I could put on this guy? On this last slot here, I'd want attack percentage because he's an attacker. I'd want attack speed percentage on a substat because I can't get it up here, so I can only get it down here. I'd want that, right? As well as I would want crit rate. Crit rate's super important. We need those crit rate as high as possible. Crit damage, right? For this slot here, this is a destructive one, so it's actually got the bonus, the 5th stat there that you don't normally get. So normally that would be the crit damage right here. And then the very last one that we want, that's where we want our attack percentage, because we can get, look on this rune, we can get an attack percentage on there as well. That's what makes dragons that scale off of attack speed just ever so slightly better attackers than regular attackers in the game that scale off of crit damage, crit rate, or attack percentage. Dragons that scale off attack speed percentage are just slightly better because they get a whole bonus stat that no other dragons get to increase their damage even more. But their runes are a lot harder to get perfectly. Like, I don't think I even have an example in this entire game of a perfect substat where I've got crit damage, crit rate, attack percentage, and attack speed, you know, all in one here. Although, I guess this technically kind of is. It's got attack speed, crit damage, crit rate, and attack speed. I stand corrected, I guess. Alright, but yeah, let's move on to some healers and some tanks and supports. Healers, I'm going to go kind of quick on. So Lady Dragon here, she's a healer, says recovery type right there. So we're going to look at her drag skill here. This is where she gets all of her heals off of. The amount recovered is increased proportionally to your defense. So right there, I know I want to run the orange runes. The orange runes are the defense ones, solidarity, defense plus 15% for every 2 that I run. And if you look, my second slot is defense percentage, my 4th slot is defense percentage, and my last slot is defense percentage. This dragon is super tanky. Just tank, 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 tank. But its heals are also super strong because I just focused everything on that. Super simple dragons like this. I love tank dragons that scale off of either HP or defense. Those are my favorites. There are other healers, like Venezi here. It's a recovery type, but we're going to go look at its drag skill. So the amount recovered is increased proportionally to your attack. So what bums me out about this is I like my healers on the front line, right? I like when they scale off of a defense because I can put them right there up front and they can get hit a whole bunch and not take a lot of damage, but then also get really good heals. This guy, unfortunately, scales off of, you know, attack, so it's got hardly any tanking ability. So I can't put him on the front line, which is a bummer. But its heals are super strong. So I've got a set of red ones on here, the might ones, attack percentage, attack percentage, attack percentage. And I needed an extra 2 here. So I put an HP set on there. My thought process was, I don't want to put crit rate. I don't want to put crit damage, right? I want to keep my dragon alive. So it scales off of attack percentage. So it's super squishy. It can die really easy. I don't need my healer dying really easily. So I'll do what the little bit of extra help I can give it by putting on a set of yellow, that HP runes. Give it a little bit more health. I could have just as easily put on a 2 set of oranges as well for defense. Does the same thing. So that's kind of how healers work. Pretty simple. Same concept as everything else. I just wanted to give 2 examples of, you know, super tank, which is my favorite, versus the attack ones, which less so important because the only thing I want them to do is heal. I don't need this dragon to do damage. I've got attackers for doing damage. All right. Alright, so let's jump over here. Let's look at this tank here. So tanks are kind of interesting. They're kind of coming into this new role in the game. I don't want to go too in depth, but they are kind of getting a support role to them. So if you look at this drag skill, inflict damage to enemy, 80% chance to decrease the target's attack for 14 seconds. So we get to put a debuff on the enemy. That's really nice. Power is increased proportionally to your defense. Okay. Again, I'm not worried about this dragon doing damage. I don't care. I don't have to build it all defense like I do the healer, right? The healer is super important to get big numbers on. My tank, I don't need to worry about my tank getting a whole bunch of big numbers on its damage. It is a little important. So if you see, I've got 4 of the orange ones on here. So it is my main stat. But then I also wanted to give him a little bit of health, so I put on some yellow runes just to kind of counterbalance it. And I think as well I put, here's a defense, and oh, I did put on 3 defense. Usually I like to do whatever the main stat is, 2 percentages of those, and then 1 of the other ones. So then 2 defense, 1 HP, right? Or 4 orange ones, 2 yellow ones. Or reversed if the dragon scales off of HP, okay? And so let's go look at rune types. Oh, there was one more. Before we go look at all the different ones, the support type. I did want to look at that one right quick. Let's see who has good support ones we can look at. Where's Fire Gaudium at? There he is. So see how he's got these blue ones on here? Let's go look at those. Oh, let's look at his skills right quick. So he is, first off, a support type. Let's go look at his skill. On a critical hit, ally mana recovery rate is doubled for 9 seconds. So we're getting a lot of mana back right quick. So it's important that we get some crit rate on this guy. So let's think that 4th slot, we definitely want that to be critical rate. Okay? Let's see, every set duration, increase attack, or decrease the attack. Okay, so that's just an automatic thing. Inflict damage to the enemy with highest HP, 80% chance to affect target. Okay, so all these just kind of do their own thing. Not really, we don't need to do anything. We don't need, aside from the critical rate here, he doesn't need attack. He doesn't need to be a tank. He doesn't need defense or HP. We can kind of do whatever we want with him. So in my thinking here, I would want to have a tank and a healer up front taking all the hits. So I want this guy to be back behind them. So since he's back behind them, he doesn't need to be super tanky. So I've got this meditation runes on him. So it takes a set of 4 to get the bonus, but I get a bonus, a whole extra mana cube every 12 seconds. So remember how he's got that crit rate skill? So we make sure that this middle slot here is crit rate. Okay. I also could have made these guys here instead of yellow, purple ones, just to further bonus him up. Because right now he's at 63%, which is a little low. So I might come back in here later and then change these out for a set of purple ones to get, you know, that extra bit of bonus here on this guy. So making sure he's get those crits to get our mana back, as well as this meditation rune set for even more mana. So this is a bit more advanced here, but meditation runes are kind of the deciding factor for top 100 of PvP, of Colosseum. If you want to be in the top 100, you're going to need a support type on your team. At least one dragon. If you look in the top 10, they're either running 2 healers or 2 supports and only 1 DPS. But you're going to want to run meditation runes on at least one of those, if not 2 of your supports. If you're running 2 supports, you're probably going to want to run 2 sets of meditation runes on those dragons. Okay? Because mana regen is so crucial. If you can get all your dragons to pop their skills off in Colosseum faster than you can get the opponent to get all their skills off, you're probably in a good line to win that match, okay? So meditation runes, super important for Colosseum, for PvP, okay? As well as, like this guy right here, I use him in Clan Dungeon on the top level. So that way he can regen a lot of mana for me, because I like to use 2 attackers on that top lane, so that way they can pelt that boss faster and faster and faster. So as soon as their timer is up, I can use it again. As soon as the timer's up, I can use that skill again, because I've always got mana coming back super fast whenever I'm using this guy. Alright guys, I know this video was super long. If you made it to the end, if you haven't already, I please beg you, like the video. If you haven't already, and you're this far, subscribe to the channel, because clearly you like this game enough to sit through a 40-minute long video on how to make your dragon stronger. So definitely subscribe to this channel, because this is you're gonna want more videos like this in the future. I can guarantee it. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it when you do. And as always, I'll see you next time.